Good afternoon, everyone. I see a thumbs up. You can see me, you can hear me. How do I look? All right. We have new technology here, which I got an introduction to last week or a couple of weeks ago. So that means I know very little about it. Yeah. Well, welcome everyone to the workshop for, it's an introduction to mindfulness meditation. You can be brand new or having been a practitioner for a long time. I see at least a couple of folks who have been around for a while. It's a great refresh, reset, any time of the year. The workshops we're offering a few times a year. There's also an introduction to mindfulness meditation series that's 4 to 6 weeks, offered by Shelley Graff, who's a co-guiding teacher, and Gabe Keller-Flores. So a bit of a deeper dive than what we'll get into this afternoon, but it will give you a sense of some of just the foundational teachings around a mindfulness meditation practice. I'm Stacy McClendon. I'm one of the teachers here at Common Ground. I'm not very good at this part. I've been practicing and here at Common Ground, I think probably coming up toward 20 years. Been teaching about the last 5 or so. I'm one of the co-founders and was a teacher for the Black Indigenous People of Color Sangha for nearly 10 years. And I'll talk toward the end of our time together about that and other practice opportunities here at Common Ground. For folks online, at home, or wherever you are, please make sure that you have what you need to be comfortable for the day, a comfortable seat, something to stay warm and hydrated. Even though you are at home, we're all in community together, and the sitting and walking periods, you will be doing the same. Just from our extended Dharma hall, which is in your home or wherever you are. For folks here in the city center and as well for folks at home, we won't have any official breaks. So if you need to use the restroom or get a drink, please do take care of yourself and do so. We ask that in the Dharma hall here that we only drink water just to protect our beautiful floors and everything, but there's makings for tea in the community room, and maybe if you need to feed your body during the day, you can do that in the community room or really anywhere in the building except in the Dharma hall here. There are restrooms here outside the door. There's also a couple more restrooms downstairs. So again, take care of yourself. So our day, just sort of the flow of the day, there's no posted schedule. So it's asking you to have a little trust and faith in me and the space that we're creating together. And it really is framed as any mindfulness or insight retreat that you might go on, alternating essentially sitting meditation and walking meditation, which are the 2 primary postures that are practiced in meditation. I will offer an option for standing and reclining meditation later in the day. And then I'll share some reflections, and there'll be lots of time, I hope, for questions and feedback and sharing from you all. If there is any challenge with the technology, I guess put it in the chat. Hopefully the chat will work. That will not be the challenge that we have with technology. Ariana has graciously offered to sit near the computer and monitor, so I won't see it, but Ariana will see it and convey what needs to be conveyed. So, and when we have Q&A or discussion, I think we can just ask folks on Zoom to unmute yourself and just talk. I don't know that we need to be as formal as raising hands and that. I think we'll be fine. We'll see how it goes. So hopefully we can all feel equally engaged. I think in order for the folks on Zoom to hear the people that are speaking in the room, we have to use this microphone. So if you are comfortable doing so, if you are comfortable with your voice being heard by the folks on Zoom, this is not being recorded, so we're really just here in community together. We'll use the microphone. You have to put it really close to your mouth and speak clearly. Maybe I'll start with just pause there to see if there was anything that I missed. Any questions so far? All right, we're looking good. Well, maybe we can start with just a short meditation together. I'll guide us just to drop into the space and as best we can, sort of just showing up here, putting aside all of our worldly responsibilities and tasks, worry and anxiety that we showed up here. What have I gotten myself into? What is this going to be about? And Ariana, I can't how my camera is off. Oh. That's okay. Okay, there we go. All right. So maybe just a few words starting about posture. Whether you're sitting on a cushion or sitting in a chair or some other seated position, it can help alleviate strain on the back and neck. A couple of different things. One, if your hips are a bit higher than your knees. So if you're sitting for long periods of time, or if you're new to sitting, you might notice that after a couple of sits that there's some strain in your back or neck. And so I kneel on two cushions. You can sit on two cushions. There are benches at home. You can, even in a chair, you can add something, sit on a blanket or something to raise your hips. And also placement of the hands. I was in a car accident a number of years ago, and so I still have some sensitivity in my neck. And so if I sit with my hands low, just sort of dangling, feeling the weight of them for a day or two, I start to feel pain in my neck. And so what you may see me do is add a cushion to my lap to bring my hands up so there isn't that added weight and pressure. But what we'll be doing throughout the day is learning to listen to the body, pay attention to what's moving in the mind. Yeah. So that's just a little bit about posture, and feel free throughout the day or even in the middle of a sit to make the adjustments that will allow you to maintain this steady state of awareness. If it's comfortable for you, you can close your eyes. That feels safe. The idea that we're minimizing distraction doesn't take much at all in the visual field to activate the mind into story, judgment, remembering, ruminating. And so we close the eyes, or at least gently cast a gaze downward. Inviting the body to relax, be soft. We're often not even aware of how much we're in our head thinking, and a bit disconnected from this physical body. Mindfulness is the practice of being aware, not just of the activity of the mind, but this alignment of heart, mind, body. And not just a memory or a thought or an assumption about the body, but we're tuning as if everything is new. Interested and curious about the sensations in the feet, the toes. Is there warmth or coolness there? Aware of the ankles and shins. Perhaps there's tightness. In that space behind the knee, often warm and moist. Can you turn your awareness there? Continuing up the legs to the thighs, the back of the thigh on the seat or cushion, the tops and sides. I'm not looking for any problems or flaws. In a way, we're becoming reacquainted with this body. Feeling the bottom and against the seat. Noticing where there's energy, sensation in the groin and the hips. Feeling the subtle rise and fall of the belly or chest as the body breathes. What is the nature of the breath right now? Is it deep or shallow, quickened or slow? Where are the sides of the torso? Tuning into the spine and back, straight but not over efforting or straining. Gently holding an upright and noble posture. And feeling the weight of the arms, they dangle from the shoulders. Where the upper arm, forearms, and we discern the wrist from the arm, from the hand. With these hands, 10 fingers, is there warmth or coolness? Are they relaxed or closed and tight? Moving tension back to the neck, which is often a place we hold stress along with the shoulders. And as best we can, just inviting relaxation. Not trying to force anything at all here. Letting the face be soft, the jaw relax. Maybe noticing the movement of light even behind closed eyelids. Noticing sound in the space. Perhaps there's ringing of the ears. Simply noticing the experience as it is doesn't have to be a problem. Softening the brow. And aware of the top of the head, the scalp, the weight of hair that may be there. And taking in this whole body, healthy enough, strong enough, breathing in and breathing out. And we can return to the physical sensations of the body when we're sitting as an anchor, anchoring us, holding us to present moment. As the mind tends to get swept away in thoughts, the body, the breath in and out is always in the present moment. And each time we wake up, as we're meditating and realize we've been swept away in thought, each time is a moment of awareness, of mindfulness. We can have some appreciation for this returning, this awareness. And bringing this sitting meditation to a close, we can gently open the eyes if they're not already. Slowly taking in the space around us, the space that we're in. So please feel free to move your body, stretch your body. I just want to check in with the folks on Zoom. Did you hear the bell? Yes. Oh, very good. Okay, I wasn't sure about that. All right. So we'll use the bell to mark our transition from sitting and walking meditation. Generally, those will be about 20 to 25 minutes. So I won't fall asleep, I won't forget to ring the bell. It can feel that way, whether you've been practicing for a long time or not. Like, oh my God, I think they forgot to ring the bell. I know it's been 20 minutes, and I don't wear a watch, but probably if I did, I would check it often during a meditation. And it takes a while for the body to settle, for the mind to settle. So trust that the bell will be rung and we'll come back together.
They said that someone said it sounded very low, so just try to put it.
Okay. Well, let's do a little test, see how this goes. Okay. Is that louder than it was before? Yes. Okay. All right. I'll try to remember to do that. Thank you. So today I'll share just some of the foundations to support either your continuing your meditation practice or establishing a meditation practice, or really understanding like what is it that we're doing exactly, sitting still with our eyes closed. Really around like how we relate to uncertainty. A lot of the Buddhist teachings are around this orientation of the heart, like the way that we meet experience. What is the attitude of the mind, the attitude of the heart? The Buddha didn't really discern between heart, mind, body. It's like all one. It's just the human experience where we've been conditioned to segment these different experiences and become perhaps numb to our body, or stop listening, or put much more value in what the mind generates, and thinking that the heart is this thing that makes us vulnerable and at risk. So we won't get into all of that today, but when I say, just so that you know, when I say heart, mind, body, it is this lived experience as a human being. So we did a bit of a body scan. That was a really short one. You can spend as much time as is comfortable doing a body scan. It's a great practice when perhaps you're having difficulty sleeping. Instead of picking up a device or turning on something to watch, is really getting interested in this whole body. I had a teacher recently, I was on retreat, I had a teacher recently tell me, like, what does that mean? I said, oh, I'm having a lot of pain. They're like, what does that mean? I'm like, pain. I'm like, no. What is it? Is it dull? Is it prickly? Is it sharp? It's like, oh, it's really like, how do you describe this uncomfortable, unpleasant sensation? And so that's what we're really practicing. It's like attuning to this place of deep, deep intimacy of experience, not the shorthand, slap a label on it, and move on. But what is it really? Is it unpleasant? Is it, what is it like? And the body holds a lot of wisdom. The body gives us a lot of clues as to whether the way that we are relating to experience, what we're thinking, what we're saying, what we're doing, the body gives us a lot of cues about whether or not that's beneficial, whether that's useful. The Buddha used the language of skillful or wholesome. So all of those in the same sort of bundle of meaning of, is this helping or is it making things worse, right? Skillful, you could think of eating a whole bag of potato chips or a whole cake or pie or whatever your whole, I like pie, right? Maybe it tastes good, it feels good going down, but is this really beneficial? Is this contributing to my well-being? Like, that's the level of looking that we're doing, right? We're not, setting some magical aspiration for ourselves and hoping that our heart, mind, body follow along. But what we're interested in is what we're doing, what the impact of that is for ourselves, for others. And we decide. We get to decide if we want to continue with that or not. Oftentimes, the simply seeing our habits helps us wake up, right? And it's not about, there's something else I have to fix. There's something else something else that's wrong with me. What we want to understand is how this came to be and what it perpetuates. So, we're not trying to control or manage or fix. I think I said in the meditation, like, nothing has to be a problem. That's certainly the orientation of my mind for this body, internal experience, and for everything else in the world. I am deeply conditioned to look for what is wrong, what is broken, what needs to be fixed. I actually said this out loud to myself this morning, like, who's to blame for this? Like, somebody, right? Because that's just the orientation, or for many of us, it's the conditioning. As if that brings some satisfaction or some resolve, right? Because then once we know who's to blame, then you have to judge them or berate them. Like, it just sort of never ends. So, equanimity is the word in insight meditation for everything justice. Nothing has to be a problem, which I struggled with this concept, I think, for a long time, because it felt like this passive allowing of BS, injustice, hurt, and harm. And it's not an endorsement of anything at all, nor is it a denial. It's this acknowledgement that it is, that it has come to be. The Buddha is said to have always said that he teaches one thing, which is really two things: suffering and the end of suffering. Right? And not this or emotional distress of being human, but the emotional distress that arises from not wanting what comes along with being human, right? Which is disappointment, sorrow, grief, loss, along with the joys, along with all of the happiness and surprise and delight and beauty. But it is the untrained mind. And that's what we're doing here. We're getting to know the mind, which can be shocking, to be honest, to see your mind. It was shocking for me to see my mind, like judging at every turn, like relentlessly, right? But not turning away, like, okay, equanimity. This is what it is. I don't need to judge myself. That's not going to help. But then this training of the mind, like, oh yeah, I know where that way of thinking or relating came from. I can trace it back at least this far. That's far enough, right? Is it beneficial? Has it yielded what we most desire? Connection, peace, understanding, contentedness. My judging did not lead me even in the general vicinity of any of that. And so we see the conditioning of the mind, and we can explore the Buddhist teachings as a way to train the mind to relate to what is without these unskillful habits that we've been cultivating for decades. And it's completely common for us to sit down on the cushion and go, all right, I got this list of things that are wrong with me, with the world, and this is what I'm going to do. I've spent many a retreat with an agenda, right? I'm going to eradicate judgment. That was many retreats. Going to eradicate judgment, or I'm going to be happy and positive, right? And that may very well be the fruit of practice, but what we are practicing again and again is seeing, quite simply. Seeing and how we relate to this physical body, this mind, the ways in which we guard and protect ourselves from one another. The untrained mind is a wild thing. And it wants what's pleasant. That's it. It just wants what's pleasant. What feels good, what smells good, what tastes good, right? What looks good. Like, oh, that's an ugly flower. I don't want that. Or that's an unpleasant smelling something or other. I don't want that. And it traps us in this unending, never completely satisfactory effort to only have what's good, what's pleasant. And maybe you can reflect on this for yourself and see where, you thought, oh, once I have that, this is the perfect fill in the blank. Everything will be better then, right? There's nods. And then you get it, and you're like, that's not quite it. I need something else. And again, it's not a passive, like, oh, this will do, it's good enough. But there is the question, is this enough? Is it? So, through our meditation and walking today, like that's the exploration, right? With this understanding of what in Buddhism is called the 3 marks of existence. 1, that everything is changing. Everything. Nothing is fixed. Nothing is permanent. Nothing. Right? Nothing. And we see really quickly how much and where we rely on things to be unchanging and permanent as a sense of stability or safety. 2, the second mark of existence is that unsatisfactoriness is a truth, a reality. Right? The beautiful bouquet of flowers will wilt and die. Right? My brand new car, inevitably, this is true, every new car, I spill a complete tumbler full of coffee somewhere in the car, right? Or it gets dinged, right? Or my perfectly clear skin gets blemished. Or my hair isn't as thick or as full as it used to be. Like something, right? And instead of this relating as, there's a problem, I'm clumsy, or my body is flawed, broken. Well, this body just stopped growing hair in its 40s, right? That's just the nature of it. I probably could be more careful with coffee in my car, right? And the third sort of mark of existence is this mind that puts self at the center. Like this is all about, this is happening to me, this is about me, I I saw a show at the Walker last night. It's called Exquisite Pain, and there are 2 performers on stage just reading the experiences of people and their emotional pain. And there was one, there's multiple stories. There was one where a person had gone through a breakup and was described being really depressed, sort of sitting on the windowsill, chain smoking for like a month or more. And at the end, he kind of made his way through the depressive episode, and at the end said he didn't even remember the woman's name. Because that's how wrapped up in I, in self, right? He was staring out of the window. He's like, he could describe the concrete with great detail, but he could not remember her name. And how often do we get swept away in this narrative of self at the center of what's happened? And again, it's not negating that we are impacted by experience. What we're learning to do in this seeing, in this being present, is holding it all. I'm talking longer than I anticipated. I do want to make a couple more points and then, hear from you all. So, I said we're learning to see, and maybe what I should say is we're learning to see without reactivity, without being hooked, right? Because we see what's wrong, we see what should have happened or what someone did or said, we see hurt or harm here or there. But it's really just a split second that we're activated and we go into that sort of judgment zone. What should have happened? What we did wrong? And so what we're learning to do is see all of experience as nature. Meaning, what is happening now has come to be as a result of what has already happened. And so causes and conditions, we call that. And we're certainly a part of that, causes and conditions. This moment, right here, also informs the next moment. And this is where we hold the most influence, in this moment. But we spend so much time spinning outside of this moment. Like replaying, reflecting, ruminating about what has happened already. Or in another way, checked out of what's happening here as we prepare, anticipate, brace ourselves for what is going to be. And it really is only from this place of direct knowing what's happening here, like how this heart mind is impacted, can we really make an informed choice about what's going to be beneficial in the next moment. Oftentimes we're just on autopilot. Right? I'm anticipating what you're going to say, so I'm going to say this, right? Or I always say this because you're going to, and we just go. And I think many of us who have this interest, like we're here because we are sensitive, we have some interest in cultivating this sensitivity, that we often reflect on that really wasn't even helpful, right? What I said, what I did, that was no good, right? And we can wish for a redo, but what we're learning, what we're practicing just by being here is creating the space for a tiniest bit of pause. So the redo isn't needed, right? We're able to make that skillful choice in the moment. Not say the flippant thing or the hurtful thing. It doesn't mean it doesn't arise in the mind, right? We are not learning mind control. We are not trying to control thoughts. We can think of the mind as the sixth sense gate. That is what the Buddha taught. So I can never rattle them off. Hearing, seeing, touching, tasting, smelling, right? And thinking. It's what the mind does. It generates thoughts, whether we're awake or asleep. So once we accept, oh, this is what the mind does, just like the nose smells. We don't try to control what the nose takes in or what stop the eyes from seeing. Right? We're not trying to stop the mind from thinking. What we're learning to do is not be so activated by what the mind generates, not believe everything that the mind generates. And surprisingly, it's a very relaxed practice. That sort of straining, bearing down, efforting that we do to like make something happen or get rid of that is that conditioned mind that says, this is a problem, we can't do this, we have to do something else. And it's in that space of remembering our capacity to relax, and we're like, oh yeah, of course that happened. Of course it did. Given everything that led up to it, how would something else happen? Which honestly makes it really understandable, the political scene that we're in and the history of our country. It would be delightful if it were something else. It would be absolutely delightful, but that's not what's been set in motion. And so we can be distraught, we can be overwhelmed, we can be stuck in fear, and still we're in this world that keeps on turning, and we're here. So how can we show up in a way that is beneficial, that is useful, that is not making things worse? That's a real fear, that things could actually get worse. Right? And so we're not simply bystanders to this world that we're in. We are active contributors. And in the tiniest ways, everything that we do and say matters. Absolutely everything. Okay, I'm gonna stop there. Yeah, I think I had this right. So we're gonna use the mic, if you will. Point it directly at your mouth. We'll do a test with the folks online to see.
I do.
Okay, you have to speak.
Does I'm thinking, can you hear me? No, does it? It feels like it's working. I forgot what I was going to ask.
Sorry.
It was the last part of what you were saying about contributing. Like, did you say contributing?
Something like that. Yeah, we all do.
We're here. What you say matters. What you do matters. Your presence matters. Cultivating skillful action matters. Could you speak to that juxtaposed to this is not mind? You're not trying to control the mind. What I mean by that is, like, for people who have a habit of judgment, or even if they don't and it suddenly comes in, isn't it still the onus on the individual to work with the mind to practice skillfully?
Yeah. Did folks online hear the question?
Keep going.
Yes. Okay. No, it's all right.
Could you say more about it, I guess, because I get tripped up.
Yeah, it's easy to get tripped up on what she was saying as she was going back to her cushion. I'm sorry. Remind me of your name. Shannon. What Shannon was saying as she was going, use she, her pronouns? As she was going back to her cushion, is that it's easy to get tripped up on, like, well, what are we doing if we're not trying to control the mind? Like, what is actually happening here, right? And so if there is this arising of thought, let's say I'll just use my own mind, arising of judgment. I've been practicing, like I said, I think it's coming up on 20 years. It just shocks me still how judgmental I can be, right? On retreat, the cleanest, nicest setting, everyone's on their best behavior. And this mind generates something, right? But what we're learning to do is not be controlled by that. We're not trying to control the mind, but our actions, our words, our way of relating to our experience is not controlled by what the mind is generating, right? So I can, 10, 15 years ago, I couldn't so much. The judgment, I called it an observation. It was just fact, right? Like, I believed it. That was the first problem. Like, I believed that this is an objective mind. It is generating truths, and I should use this to guide me in the world. That's what we do, right? We see someone like, oh, they're dangerous. I need to stay away. Because they maybe remind us of someone, or it's something that has been unsafe in the past. And so we put it just all together. And what happens is we start grouping, lumping more and more of those things together, and that's how we navigate the world. I'm not actually relating to you. I'm relating to someone who you remind me of from 15 years ago. Because this heart is also, I've built some protections around this heart. Right? That's not going to happen to me again. Right? So, whatever I need to do, we all have different strategies. The aim is to keep ourselves safe. So it's not, it was a useful strategy, perhaps initially, right? This way that ultimately ends up in us othering and creating distance between ourselves and other people. And so we're not controlling the mind, but we're interested in seeing that arising, that whole arc. Like, oh yeah, this happened, and then I hardened off in this way, or now I relate to this, and now I have a lot of fear, and I don't want to let it go. Like, that's an acknowledgement too. That's where we're going to be at some point. Like, yep, that's true. I am this, and I don't want to change. I'm not here to tell you to change. The Buddha wasn't telling anyone to change. This practice is largely an invitation. Is it useful? Is thinking, is relating to people that look like that or people that act like that, is it beneficial? Does it result in you feeling at ease? That's the cue that the body gives us. If we are walking away from an interaction or an experience and the body is tight, or the head is ringing, or we are unwell, those are cues, right? That relating in that way is not serving us well. It is not leading to connection. It is not leading to understanding. And I'm not speaking only externally. Connection to our own heart, our own values, right? Understanding what is actually nourishing here. There's a lot of what I would say female-bodied people, right? We have a lot of do it this way, don't do that. This is what being in that body should be like. And it's a listening. I'm still here. I don't know how I keep going off camera, but I'm still here. There's magic tech fairies or something. So maybe it's like three things. So we have this mind that generates the stuff, the bias, the hatred, the ill will, the judgment, the greed, the aversion. And then there's this awareness that, oh, this is what the mind is generating, and that's the choice point, right? There's always a choice point. Are we acting from that? Not just are we acting from it, but why would we? Because it's beneficial? Because they deserve it, right? Because we do that. Like, oh, they did this, so they deserve a piece of my mind, or they deserve this, or I'm not going to help them at all because they deserve to suffer in that way. I don't know what they did in their life, but that's them, and I'm not going to have anything to do with that. We're recognizing this mind. And there isn't. Wouldn't it be nice if there were just a map of all the right things to do and all the wrong things, and we just like don't do the wrong things? It would be lovely and easy, but it's not always that clear. It is this moment to moment, what's needed right now, what's going to be helpful right now. In some moments, silence would be the most beneficial thing. As someone who generates opinions, really, I don't even need a whole lot of information to generate an opinion. Like sometimes keeping that to myself is the most beneficial thing. Sometimes sharing that opinion is really important to the well-being of myself and others. But it's not an absolute. That's the changing. That's that universal principle that everything is always changing. So we can't say, well, just speak your mind. Because sometimes speaking your mind isn't what's needed in that moment. Sometimes it is. That's right. It's not an absolute. It is not an absolute. Yeah. There's a question online.
In my earnest desire to practice, I can get caught in strain and even some rigidity. Can you say more about this ease and relaxed practice and maybe how a compassionate heart can help in this practice?
Oh, thanks, Heather, fellow controlling person. I actually know Heather, so I feel like I can say that with with love. But right, there is that wanting there to be a clear and right way. And once we find it, why would we do anything else? This is what's clear and right. Here's the answer. You all just heard the answer, right? Because those conditions about us aren't the same all the time. They're actually changing, right? There are some times when I feel like it's the right thing or beneficial thing to offer money to someone who is asking for money on the street. There are some times where I feel like I'm not really sure that's the best thing, right? And the compassion is, right, compassion is this, when this loving heart, right, meets difficulty, meets suffering, and oftentimes that's right here, right? Like, oh, I got it wrong, or oh, you did that bad, or, right? The compassion is, like, I don't really know. That's not the aim here, to always know what's right, what's good. That's the fixed way of thinking. Compassion invites us to venture into action from a place of care. So I would, and I am getting better. I have not always been very good at an embodied practice, but it really is so telling when I'm being rigid and controlling. And I have learned to just drop in this question, is this really helping? Is it? Oftentimes what I'm doing is I'm placing my own comfort, my own interests at center. And hoping, trusting that, somebody else will get something out of it. Something good will happen. But mainly, I'll be good. And it is scary when maybe we come from a place where our needs haven't been met, we haven't been cared for, to trust that will be reciprocated. Right? It feels like this, I don't know about you, but I certainly was socialized in my family You don't give more than anyone else is giving. You just don't. They show themselves. If they're nice, then you can be nice. If they're not, then you don't have to, right? But what we can do is just drop in here. Like, that doesn't actually feel good. It actually feels good for this heart, mind, body to be kind, like all of the time. It actually does feel good. It's the more practice I have, more sensitive I get to that stress of withholding, that stress of controlling. And there was this wide swing to the other end of the pendulum swung wide to the other end of the spectrum. It was kind of like, guarded, I'm not giving everything, F it, I'm open for everything. And you come back to center, right? And there's this, right alongside this caring heart is wisdom, this capacity to discern, to know, like what is being called for here. I hope that was helpful, Heather. Okay. Any comments or questions online?
Well, for now, just that they couldn't hear the question, so next time we can just have you repeat it.
Okay, all right. Okay,
But I think that's all for now.
okay. Sorry, I thought I saw a thumbs up for,
Yes, I said in the future we will share the question in the microphone.
okay, okay. Very good. Well, then I don't know what this microphone is for. We won't use it. Okay. Okay. I was going to share this quote. Thomas Burton, I think like Christian philosopher, scholar, not Buddhist that I know of, but I think this is right in line with what we've been talking about. He said, "You do not need to know precisely what is happening or exactly where it is all going. What you need is to recognize the possibilities and challenges offered by the present moment and to embrace them with courage, faith, and hope." So really back to that, what is happening right here and what is needed just right here. We're not responsible for the entire outcome, the outcome or actions of anyone else. We're responsible for our contribution. Which can be disappointing, no doubt, right? Because I gave this and I wanted this to happen, right? I wanted this outcome, or they should have done that. The Buddha basically said that all of our problems come from greed, hatred, delusion. And not like hatred, greed being more good, hatred being less bad, delusion meaning, I don't know what's happening, right? The sort of checking out. Right? And so that withholding, we can see that as sort of, in this hatred category, or greed. It's two sides to the same coin. Like, I only want what's pleasant and good. And we don't have to feel bad about that. That is the nature of the mind, of the untrained mind. And when we can acknowledge it and see it, it's only then that we can reorient to something that is beneficial, that isn't going to kill these bodies with stress. Okay, that's a terrible note to end on. But it's a real thing. It's a real thing. A close family friend, 60 years old, he wasn't feeling well, and he laid down and passed away. Right? These bodies hold everything that this mind is generating. And we think that we can think our way out of whatever the problem is. It's really just loving our way all the way through. It really is. Okay. We're going to have a walking practice. I totally talked way more than I planned to. So I'll get us back on schedule. You all don't know what the schedule is, so it'll be just fine anyway it goes. I will say a little bit about walking practice. How many of you have never done walking meditation before? Okay, so a good number of folks. Okay. So walking meditation, it's useful to think of as just another meditation posture, which indeed it is. The Buddha taught 4 meditation postures: sitting, walking, standing, lying down. We most often sit. People often will stand if they're like getting sleepy and they're sitting meditation. We'll do a brief standing meditation a bit later. But really the purpose of walking meditation is maintaining this continuity of awareness. We spend a lot of our time on our feet moving about. We spend a lot of time walking. Generally, I think we're not aware, we're not attuned to the body that's actually walking. We're going somewhere. We're thinking about the thing that's ahead. Walking meditation is not a break from sitting meditation. Just work some things out in the mind. We're using the body as the meditation object. So I'll do a little, maybe you can, I'll say sitting so the people on screen can see me, but I will ask everyone if you will just play along and stand up. Just if you can, we're going to just take like 5 paces, just walk, 5 steps, walking, and just pause. And where was your mind? You don't have to announce it out loud. Just where was your mind when you were taking those 5 steps? Were you aware of your body at all? No? Yeah, probably not. Someone said yes, and that's fine. I mean, maybe because of the space we're in, you're like, yes, feet on the floor, moving. So let's do another 5 paces and a bit slowed with the intention of like, okay, I'm going to attune to this body walking. Just short 5 steps. And even in those short steps, you might notice, like it only takes a couple of steps for the mind to go, I really like these socks, or this is a really nice floor, or how long is this going to last, right? And that's okay. It doesn't have to be a problem. It took me years to really be able to drop into a walking practice and keep my awareness on the body walking. So that slower pace, if that's a comfortable pace for walking, that's what we'll do. What I would invite you to turn your attention to as you're walking is that movement of the body. It could be at the hips, it could be at the bending of the knee, the placement of the foot. It is incredibly repetitive. It is. That's what walking is. But what does that body actually feel like that's walking? Maybe you feel something in your back or neck that you haven't attuned to previously. So at home and here in the city center, it's much the space that you need for walking meditation is akin to pacing, is short. So if you're at home, maybe a hallway or the width of a room, and you walk back and forth. You can pause at the end of that path, come back to the body, looking outside or thinking, you're like, oh yeah, walking, I'm back, and begin again. Here in the city center, there's the community room. So if you walk, I think the floorboards are in the same direction. I hope they are. Walk in the same way as the floorboards. So a few people can walk there. We can maybe move these chairs here and there can be a walking path. If there's not enough room, we can do a loop through the lobby, out one door, through the lobby and this door. There is a walking path outside here in the garden. Feel free to walk there. It's a lot more to be distracted by. So rocks and fence and sounds and breezing. There's lots to be distracted. So just be mindful that to pause when you're walking, whether inside or outside, to check in, where is the mind? What is the experience of the body walking right now? We'll do the first walking session a bit shorter because it's new and I know that it can be challenging to hold attention. I will ring the bell. For folks online as well. And I will ring it outside if anyone chooses to walk outside. Any questions about walking meditation? And the whole body walks. What is the neck like? What are the arms doing? Are they swinging? Are we doing weird things with our body when we're walking to be mindful? There's a question in the room. Yeah, I'm just going to repeat the question. Thank you, Ariana.
Is it pacing? So is it actually pacing, or are we all?
The question is asking clarification about my direction about pacing. Pacing was about having a lane and walking back and forth in that lane. Because we're here in the city center and we have, well, there's 8 people, so we really should be okay. If there's not a lane for you to walk in here at the city center, you can do that loop or walk in the garden. You could walk in the garden either way if you want to. Generally, if you're on retreat, the direction is to choose someplace that's 15 to 20 paces. So that's why I make it akin to pacing. Yeah. You're not checking out. Pacing is really like, I'm just moving the body because I'm working it out in my mind. But we're not working it out in our mind. We're directing the mind to the body that is walking. And all of you, I think, everyone is walking. If you have some limited mobility and you're not able to walk, you could certainly use this period for a lying down or a reclining meditation or a sitting meditation. Okay, pick a lane and move mindfully. Often in meditation, there's the thought, am I doing this right? And whether that's sitting or walking. And I assure you that if you are here, you are doing it just fine. What we're practicing is not getting it right, but learning to stay present with the experience. So even that mind of doubt that says, I don't think this is it, that too is an object for our meditation, something that we can be aware of. Every moment, every breath is an opportunity to begin again. So this is a meditation instruction offered by one of the wise teachers in our insight tradition, Ajahn Chah. He says, just go into the room being your mind. Just go into the room and put one chair in the center. Take the seat in the center of the room, open the doors and the windows, and see who comes to visit. You will witness all kinds of scenes and actors, all kinds of temptations and stories imaginable. Your only job is to stay in your seat. You'll see it all arise and pass, and out of this, wisdom and understanding will come. The mind is like a single point, the center of the universe, and mental states are like visitors who come to stay at this point for short or long periods of time. Get to know these visitors well. Become familiar with the vivid pictures they paint, the alluring stories they tell, to entice you to follow them. But do not give up your seat. It is the only chair around. If you continue to occupy it unceasingly, greeting each guest as it comes, firmly establishing yourself in awareness, transforming your mind into the one who knows, the one who is awake, the visitors will eventually stop coming back. If you give them real attention, how many times can these visitors return? Speak with them here, and you will know every one of them well. Then your mind will at last be at peace. So let's practice with this for a while. These visitors that consist of images and plans, memories, dreams, thoughts, emotions, and all of the other mental activity. Acknowledging their presence, but not holding on. Watching them come and go. a useful strategy to keep us from getting entangled with these mental activities is one of noting. We might simply note thinking, or we can be more specific, judging, doubting, wishing, just naming the activity and allowing it to move. And beginning again doesn't have to be a problem. Staying with our one anchor, whether it's the breath or noting, returning to the present moment's experience. restlessness or distraction. It doesn't have to be a problem. We can acknowledge it, note it, and return to the anchor. It's like this, meditating right now. So we'll have another walking period. It sounds like there's a question on Zoom.
Yeah, now kind of wanted to know if you can drop the link of the reading you did before on the chat.
Oh, there's no link, but I will see how to get that out to folks. Ajahn Chah is the teacher. I will see how to get that out. Yeah, so this is from Thich Nhat Hanh, just about walking, which I think is just really sweet. He said, when we walk like we are rushing, we print anxiety and sorrow on the earth. We have to walk in a way that we only print peace and serenity on the earth. Be aware of the contact between your feet and the earth. Walk as if you are kissing the earth with your feet. Have a good walking period. thought we could just take a few minutes to check in, see if there are questions, see if how you're feeling, how the body is feeling, how you're relating to walking practice or what's coming up sitting. So maybe we can start with the Zoomers. You can also just unmute yourself, ask a question or share, or you can certainly use the chat. I know it can be, feel like we're sort of in the spotlight asking a question. Certainly my mind fears asking a dumb question or a question that I think I probably should know the answer to, but don't. And any questions, all sharing is beneficial, just to use that word again, beneficial for all of us to.
Hi,
Oh, yeah.
I'm
Hi.
Christine. Hello. This
Christine.
is wonderful. Thank you, by the way. I found myself your teaching about not trying to control the mind has been really helpful because I've been practicing now for a couple of months, and there's so many different views on that, I think, or depending on the school, focus on your breath, do a mantra, do that, and just kind of the whole kind of don't try to control it has been really helpful. So if maybe you could just say a little bit more about that. Like, I mean, I'm on the walking meditation. I found myself everywhere, all over the world, all over my life, but I kept just bringing it back to my feet hitting the floor, and that was great. Yeah. Does that ever like calm down? I guess.
Anyone? Does that ever calm down in flashes for moments? You'll hear people talk about, oh, I had a really good sit. That means the mind was like steady and calm. And we like that. It feels good. It's a relief, right? When we're not chasing after this thought or feeding this thought. But it is the nature of the mind. And so I think we're not even aware that we're feeding thoughts oftentimes. We think they're just happening on their own, right? But we don't get lost for 10 minutes, half an hour, half a day by the mind just thinking. We are actively engaged in feeding it, right? And what we give attention to is what grows, right? So if we are giving all of our attention and sort of feeding fear or anxiety or doubt or worry, that's absolutely what will grow. And so it feels, like I'm a gardener, so I often think of it in terms of gardening. And you have to root out the weeds in order for like what you planted to grow and flourish, right? But you don't only look for weeds, right? There is this planting and tending to, and I don't know about you, if you're a gardener, you're like, you get to a point, you're like, yeah, those weeds can live there. And these flowers can still blossom and grow. But in our mind, we tend to think, I can't be happy, I can't relax until fill in the blank, problem, issue is resolved, is fixed, right? I can't be happy until there's no homelessness, everyone is happy, there's no, right? And the truth of the matter is, we won't see that likely in our lifetime. like where everyone has everything that they need and everyone's happy all of the time. It doesn't mean we throw our hands up and just say, well, I'm just looking out for myself then, right? We could acknowledge that this is a complicated ecosystem that we're living in. Like this ecosystem here, and then this world that we're a part of. And so how do we stay engaged in a way that's meaningful, doesn't contribute to the chaos and hate that's happening in the world, and also in a way that we don't burn ourselves out, right? That's self-care, like recognizing this balance that's needed to keep showing up fully in our lives every day, showing up, contributing in the world every day. Maybe you know what that burnout feels like, right? Like I have nothing else to give. Like how did that happen? Right? Because I don't know, I think this heart, I think there is no limit, no end to our capacity to care. But if we're out of balance, taking care of other, not taking care of this existence, and perhaps pouring a lot of energy into expectations, right? Like this is going to yield this, then that's a pretty solid formula for burnout. Oh yeah, go ahead, Ariana.
Elka said it totally comes down, just stick with it as best as you can.
It calms down. Yeah, this desire that it will be some other way, like that is the definition of suffering. Right? The shoulds or not this. And so this practicing allowing is like the simplest sort of way that I practice on a daily basis. Like when I feel myself getting tight, like, oh, this should be happening, that should be happening, like that's that constriction, that's that controlling, like, oh honey, you can't manifest that, all that I think should happen or want to happen. Like I can want it to happen, but is this tightening up going to help manifest that? Or is there actually something that I can do? And as humans, we tend to want instant results and really big sweeping sign and proof that what I'm doing is good and right, right? And it's more like gardening. You plant a seed in the soil as best you can. You ensure that the soil is fertile and not cluttered with garbage and debris. And you wait and see what comes up, how long it takes. That Thomas Merton quote about cultivating or acting in with faith, hope.
This reminds me a little bit of that resource you sent about, I think it's community acceleration or something a couple of days ago, and it talks about how everything seems to be happening so fast, but we need to, as a community, kind of like see if there's something we really can do and not be so stressed about it.
Ariana was sharing. I didn't send that, so I'm not
Oh.
sure. No, it's okay. There was a resource that was shared. I don't know if it was with this group about just the world moving quickly and that reactivity that we have to the world, and really pausing. And that pause can just be a breath. Like what can I actually do right now that feels good here? and that we think is going to be a benefit to the world, there's no guarantee that it's going to create the fruit that we want, right? I planted, I don't even know what kind of flower it was this summer. Like, it's the flower that came up, but it is not the color that they said it was going to be at all. It wasn't the double bloom that they said it was going to be, right? But can I appreciate what did flower, what did blossom? It's easy to get fixated or sidetracked on me, but that's not what they told me. That's not what they sold me. That's not what they said was going to happen. And what happens in that, and not to say that that's not true, like that's absolutely true. And here's this beautiful flower that while I'm fixated on, the injustice of this, the color of this particular flower, I'm missing out on this piece of beauty. And how often does that happen in our lives, that we are missing something rich, something powerful right here because we're somewhere else in our mind.
But I'm having a little bit of trouble with the distinction between bringing awareness to something and just thinking about it. So, like bringing awareness to your breath or thinking about breathing, and then overthinking about the breathing instead of noticing that I am breathing feels like I will start in one place and end up in the other pretty quickly.
Yeah, and what's your name?
Megan.
Megan was just sharing. Thank you for sharing so openly that sometimes it's hard to draw the distinction, to discern between awareness of something and thinking about something, right? And you have some insight because you notice, maybe you're already tumbling down the thinking about path. You're like, oh, this isn't awareness. This is generating thoughts, generating ideas, generating opinions about breathing was the example you used, right? Or like I noticed that sometimes I'm controlling my breath, right? And so there's the awareness does have this curious and relaxed sense to it, right? Whereas thinking is more generative. We're trying to do something, make something happen, create something, get an opinion about it. Like it's purposeful is the word that came. Whereas awareness is curious, right? This not knowing. And it's so counterintuitive to how, I don't know, I think many of us have been socialized, like, know what's happening. Like, assess the situation, know what's happening. If something's wrong, have a solution and exact that solution. Like, for many of us, that's what we get paid to do in some way. That's our job, right? And so here we are now saying, well, just, sit back, relax, see what happens. You're like, what? No, I have things to do. I have problems to solve. But what we're getting to know is truly the nature and root of those problems, right? Actually, what we're, out of that sort of habit knee-jerk response, what we're solving, we're not solving, we're soothing. We're soothing our discomfort, we're soothing our fear, we're trying to get away from something we don't want. And what we're doing, what awareness does, awareness is like a mirror. It just reflects what is. There is no opinion, there is no right, there is no judgment. It just is. And that is where what allows us to just relax. Like, oh, I'm just agitated. It doesn't have to be a problem. Oh, I'm restless, right? In the sit, not I'm a bad meditator, I don't think I'm doing this right. I mean, I had too much coffee today, and so I'm like, oh, that's why you were talking too much, Stacy. Causes and conditions, right? Oh, don't do that next time. Don't drink all that caffeine beforehand, right? So good though. I've been indulging in dirty chais at home. The coffee is decaf, but the chai is not. But yeah. So you just notice that noting. Like, oh, yeah, I'm irritable. It doesn't mean I need to go off on somebody, tell them about themselves or withdraw from the world. Like, what is that like to notice this particular heart-mind state and still show up with intention to care, to be interested, to be patient, right? It's so different than how we are used to acting. Like, oh no, I'm pissed off. That means I have to act this way, right? Or I'm afraid, so I'm not going to do this. Like, we can be afraid and still move forward. This is Thanissaro Bhikkhu has been one of the main translators for the suttas, which are the texts of the Buddhist teachings from over 2,600 years ago. They were in Pali, that was the language spoken at the time of the Buddha, and so they've been translated into many languages, but into English. And so this is from Thanissaro Bhikkhu, who was translating texts around the Brahma Viharas, the sublime attitudes. The Buddha said, if your heart mind is resting in one of these four states at all times, any one of them, you're going to be all right. You're going to do good. And it's this attitude of care or goodwill, loving kindness. So it's like an attitude of goodwill, not the judgment, guardedness, suspiciousness that I was describing earlier for myself. And when that attitude of goodwill meets suffering, compassion. Like, we can be with it. We don't have to turn away, be afraid. And also when that attitude of caring meets another's joy or success, delighting in that. Right? Sympathetic joy. Not like, well, how come they got that? They didn't deserve that. What did they do to deserve that? And then equanimity, that I spoke of earlier. It's just like this. I get irritable. It happens. So I should eat every 4 hours, right? So he says, or the suttas say, we act skillfully toward others not because we're innately kind or because we deserve it or because they deserve it. We do so because we realize that if we don't, it will lead to our own long-term suffering. Right? That despair of, this isn't it, I don't want this, I don't like this. The principle of karma, like cause and effect, that's all karma is. It's what gets set in motion. Shows that if we want to live peacefully and harmoniously in this life, we need to develop the Brahma Viharas toward all. If we want to live peacefully and harmoniously, we have to act peacefully and harmoniously. And it doesn't mean an endorsement of anyone's hurtful or foul or mean behavior. It means that we don't have to respond in the same way, right? And it might be because I care about you as a human, about this human, I'm going to allow some space between us and you and your foul behavior or whatever it is, right? But I don't need to go on a bent on social media about what a terrible person you are or gossiping with others about the harm that you've caused, right? Because karma, cause and effect, doesn't require action on our part, right? We will all beings will experience the consequences, good or bad, of their choices, of their behavior. But it goes back to, we want immediate action. We want them to suffer now, and we want to see it, right? To make sure that they are suffering to like an appropriate degree. And what happens when we just step away from that? We can acknowledge, that was foul, that was hurtful, that caused some damage. And I am choosing not to be a part of that. Or I'm choosing to step forward and say something because our relationship can support that. Right. Why don't we do a little standing or lying down meditation? Your choice, meditator's choice. How about that? Yeah. I'll stand, so maybe close. And I don't know that the camera will follow me, Ariana, but so I'm gonna stand in front of it. There. Yeah. If you choose to lie down, that's perfectly fine. Pull some cushions to be comfortable. Make sure your neck and back are supported. If you're lying down, it's so weird, this is backwards on camera, but if you are lying down, I would suggest holding your arms as so when you're lying down. And why? Because when we are lying down and we're still and quiet, the body goes to sleep. And it will go to sleep even with your arms up, but it's a little more signal before you start snoring. Which also happens. It happens also when you're sitting up. I mean, some people when you're sitting up. I have not seen anyone stand and fall asleep. So, okay. So if you're standing, just body relaxed, feet about hip width apart. And it's useful when you're standing to find center. We won't stand long, maybe about 10 minutes or so. And so it can be useful, just a gentle sway from side to side, just a few times. And then just allowing the body to naturally come to rest. And you can also allow the body gently rock forward and back. The same. Just after a few times, allowing it to come to rest. And our interest is in the experience of the body in this posture, whether standing or lying down. And we can return to the body scan. So feeling the feet on the floor, the back of the heels on the floor. Feeling held by the earth. Allowing our weight to sink in to this solidness. Relaxing the shoulders. Your eyes can be open or closed. If they're open and you're standing or lying, just casting the gaze downward. Again, protecting the mind in this way from seeing and reacting and generating thoughts. Where is there energy in the body? Or warmth or coolness? As best we can, allowing the nervous system to relax, to settle down. Nowhere to go. Nothing to do, no problems to solve. If you notice tightness or holding in one part of the body, perhaps the knees are locked. As best we can, relaxing, softening. The body is just like this now. Noticing any ideas you're holding about this body and this posture. One teacher said we're practicing being a human being and not a human doing. Inviting awareness to accompany us. What is the attitude of the mind right now? The anchor of the breath, or noting. Perhaps there's a body scan you're doing, are still all available to us in this posture. And we'll continue on for another 10 minutes or so. You can stay in this posture, or you can transition to walking meditation, and then we'll come back for our final sit together. getting to know the mind and training the mind. And the fruit of this seeing, which can be difficult and unpleasant, and training, which can be repetitious and perhaps tedious. The fruit is that the mind can be free. These habit reactions that we've engaged in, for many of us, our whole lives. Freeing ourselves from this push-pull, wanting, rejecting, longing for, resisting what is. Free from the suffering of placing ourselves in the center, taking everything personally. Someone else's irritability or someone else's unskillful behavior. Or believing that if we did things just so, we wouldn't experience misfortune or sadness. And instead, we begin to understand that all of this, the joys and the sorrows, are part of what it means to be human, what it means to be alive. This is from the suttas translated by Gil Fronsdal. Don't chase the past or long for the future. The past is behind, the future is not yet reached. Have insight into whatever phenomena are present, right where it is, not faltering, not agitated. By knowing whatever is present, one develops the mind. Ardently, do what should be done today. Who knows? Death may come tomorrow. There is no bargaining with mortality and his great army. Whoever dwells thus ardent, active night and day, is, says the peaceful sage, one who has an auspicious day. Don't chase the past or long for the future. The past is left behind, the future is not yet reached. Have insight into whatever phenomena are present, right where it is, not faltering, not agitated. Knowing whatever is present, one develops the mind. Ardently, do what should be done today. Who knows, death may come tomorrow. There is no bargaining with mortality and his great army. Whoever dwells thus ardent, active day and night is, says the peaceful sage, one who has an auspicious day. May it be so that we all have auspicious days, days of awareness, fleeting moments of awareness. Yeah. The teachings here, offered here at Common Ground, are from early Buddhism. There are many lineages and of Buddhism offered, many here in the metro even. And what's most important is that you find a practice, a teacher, a community that supports you on this path, where you feel connected and seen, supported. I hope that's here at Common Ground, whether virtually or in person. It's a lifetime practice. It is not one where we're at it for a year and we've got it down and we're present and aware in every moment. You'll hear people who've been practicing for decades talk about getting swept away in thoughts, having preferences and opinions and acting those out. And it doesn't mean that we're bad practitioners. It means that we're human. And that capacity to recognize the activity of mind is so powerful. I encourage you to not dismiss that at all. If it's this perpetual or continuous awakening, oh, I was lost in thought. Oh, I was lost in thought, right? That is awareness. Aware of what the mind is doing. And maybe as you're standing in line at the grocery store or wherever you are, you'll remember to drop into your body, right? Because this act of waiting, it's like waiting for the thing to happen. Like, this isn't it that's happening, me just standing here. But checking in, taking the opportunity to check in with the body, with the heart, mind, body. Are we aligned? Are we aware? I like to drop in the questions, 2 questions. Where am I? Like, where am I launched somewhere in the future, planning? I love planning. Getting ready, right? I can anticipate whatever. Or, back in the past, replaying something, figuring out who was to blame or what should have been done. Where am I? And then how am I? It's that question I asked in the meditation, like, what is the attitude of the mind? Is it in this greed, hatred, delusion? Am I averse to what's happening? Am I grasping after something? Is there this sort of cloud of confusion, denial? Where am I? How am I? We've covered a lot today, so don't feel like you have to have gotten it all. Your heart, your mind will hold what's useful to you right now. And something else may come up in a day or two or a week. You're like, oh yeah. And so though it was just a half a day, we planted seeds. And you may not think so, but it's likely that you're a little bit more tender than when you walked in the door, a bit more settled, a bit more relaxed, a bit open. And the world is still spinning out there. It's still doing its thing. And it can be easy to say, why bother with this if everyone else is the same, nothing has changed, or no one notices that I'm almost levitating, like I'm almost enlightened. Why keep up with this? Right? And it's because we are in the world and everything that we do matters. We leave an imprint, everything we touch, everything. There is residue. And what is that imprint that you want to leave? Is it one of greed, hatred, delusion, or is it one of peacefulness, understanding, patience, curiosity? And, you won't always get it right. You'll forget to meditate or to be mindful, but the remembering is important. And it softens, it tenderizes this heart, and like a willingness to just keep showing up. In this last sit, I realized, this just popped in, I wasn't necessarily reflecting on the day, like, oh, I made some reference earlier to us being a lot of female-bodied people, and that, inadvertently, I left out everyone else, right? So that certainly was not my intention, but I can acknowledge that, own any harm that was caused. I am sorry. I recognize there's a diversity of bodies and, gender expression. And we all get messages from the world about how we're supposed to show up, we're expected to show up, given the container that we're in. And then I can be free. I can let it go. Like, oh, I fucked up. I could say, oh, I fucked up. And I can then let it go, right? How often are we hostage to, oh, I fucked up. I'm not going to talk about it. I know everyone noticed, but I'm not going to talk about it. They're not going to talk about it. And then we spin. And I can be free. I can feel clean. The residue is clean. It's not that I didn't do any harm. I may have. If I did, please reach out to me. But I don't have to add that layer of mental proliferation. So I was talking about common ground. There's lots of ways to engage in the community here, opportunities for your practice to be supported. Please check the the website. That's the most current, where the calendar is. If you're in person, there's flyers on the bulletin board for stuff that's coming up soon. There are open sits in the morning. That means there's just someone here ringing the bell half hour. Every half hour you can drop in on the half hour, sit for as long as you like. There are half day, day-long retreats, sort of like this, with instruction and guidance. And you can sign up for those as often as you like. There's a few regular programs where one of the teachers, Shelley, Mark, sometimes myself, other teachers in the community offer a meditation and then a talk. And those are generally Sundays and Wednesdays. There's community practice check-ins. So I lead one on Tuesday. Elka has been joining recently. There's one on Friday, Sunday. We get together, we sit, and we talk about our practice. This intersection largely of living in the world, because this is great and easy, right? We have it all figured out here. It's quiet, no one's talking to you, getting on your nerves, right? But then we go out and it's like, what was I supposed to do? What? Present moment? What? And so we talk about it in the community practice check-in. And you can also go online and request a practice meeting with the teacher, one-to-one. It's short. You can do that virtually, in person. They're like 15 minutes. So like really, you have to come in with some intention, right? Like a question or something that you want to explore. There's all sorts of stuff out there in the world about mindfulness. Some of it is not based in Buddhism, and some of it is. And so you have to listen for what resonates with you. It's back to that, but what's the right? Who is the teacher, right? And it's who is the teacher that resonates for you. There are all sorts of affinity groups here that are not teacher-led, they're peer-led. So there's a queer group, there's 12-step, there's BIPOC, there's Jewish group. If there's not a group that you would like to join in and you have some interests, there's a possibility of you starting a group. So we really, the Buddha said that sangha, community, is the whole of the practice, right? We are not walking this path alone. So I hope that you check out the bulletin board or the website. There's also residential retreats at our retreat center, which is about a little over an hour west of here, just over the border in Wisconsin. It's a small farm that we bought a few years ago. I think max capacity for a retreat is like 17 or something like that. It's super sweet. There's retreats, which are teacher-led, and then there's also practice periods. So it's at the retreat center, but there's no teacher, so they might listen to a recorded talk. But the similar is here. There's sitting and walking meditation. Just keep at it. Just keep at it. So practicing, and then another way to be part of the community is just supporting common ground, whether that's volunteering. Common Ground is one of just a handful of mindfulness or insight meditation centers in the United States that operates entirely on donations. In Pali, the word for generosity is dana, D-A-N-A. And we have thrived on dana for over 30 years. The purchase of the building, all the renovations of the building, the purchase of the retreat center. We don't have like a huge donor stashed off somewhere who's just throwing hundreds of thousands. It's those 3 bowls on the other side of this wall where 5s and 10s and 20s get dropped in. You can also donate money online. There's a Square reader out there. Contributions to Common Ground are tax deductible, so if you would like to keep track of that, you can write a check or you can use the Square reader. You can donate online also. So I think Ariana is going to drop into the chat for our Zoomers information about contributing to the center. And like I said, it's not just money. It's like flower arranging, snow shoveling. I mentioned we have new technology. If you can help us orient with our new owl or this setup, whatever your interest and skill set is, if you have time, we would love to have you join our community in a way that feels meaningful for you. Yeah. We're just about at time because I've been talking a lot today. But I do want to just offer if there are any final comments, reflections, questions.
Thank you so much.
There's a thank you from Shannon. Thank you. In this community and many Buddhist communities, hands together is Anjali, just an honoring and gratitude for practice and community. And we often end our times together with just dedicating the goodness that came from our time together, this softening of the heart and opening of the mind, that this practice and our time together be of benefit, not only to ourselves, but those close to us and those far, folks that we don't know. May this goodness radiate out to all beings everywhere, without exception, so that all beings know the causes and conditions and for happiness. May it be so. Thanks, everyone. It was good to see you. I have to put my glasses on to see the Zoomers. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much. Take good care. Thank you, everyone here at the City Center.